Hey all, it's Zach Logs. This video is about the design of different earthworking hoes for different soil type. Now, as a review, earthworking is really when you're moving a lot of soil, building new beds from scratch. Maybe you're eking out terraces in the side of a hill. It's when you're building up new garden plots and you're turning over new land, or you're turning over land again, but you need to chop up a lot of debris and do a lot of movement of earth. These are not hoes for weeding. So these different designs of the actual blade of these hoes really have a lot to say about how you might use them in terms of the soil that you're using them in and the situation you're using them in. This style, this spade hoe, has this heart shape. It's very broad at the head, narrow at the point. This is going to allow you to pick into the soil a bit. So if you're in a situation where there's even a little bit of stones, you can pick in, but it's still so broad that you're going to move a lot of soil. So if that soil is a lighter soil, you can actually pull a lot of that material. This is a very versatile design that can actually be used in a lot of different soil types, for furrowing out paths, for hilling up the shoulders of beds, for turning over new beds in the spring or the fall to get them ready and roughed in for a new growing season. A variation on this, the much broader hoe, might be much squarer, and that's going to move a lot more material, but it's not going to be as versatile in heavier soils, and it's not going to have this picking action that can help it break through if there's a bit of stony kind of rockiness going on. But ultimately, this is a very versatile hoe for a lot of different soil types. On the other hand, this is a narrow root hoe. Now you can get a broad root hoe, and that would be good for moving more soil, but this narrower root hoe is really going to let you get in to areas where, again, there might be a little bit of stuff getting in the way, namely roots. You can see that this shape at the bottom has a sharpened edge and a bit of a notch in the middle, and that really helps when you're doing that hoeing action to actually cut through roots. So if you're turning over land that has had heavy cover cropping, or you're even working in forested plots and you might be turning over land that has a lot of little tree rootlets and things like that, then this type of root hoe is going to be great. I'll go for a narrower design if I'm in soil that's also maybe a little stonier or a little heavier, because it's not going to have as much of surface friction if I'm trying to pull large amounts of soil. If I had a broader root hoe that might be 3 times broader than this. So again, that's something to always take into consideration. Wider hoes move more material, but it's harder to move heavier material with wider hoes. So this narrow root hoe works in heavier soils and with roots present. This is an interesting hoe shape. This is a trident hoe, and you can see here the 3 long blades that come out. You also notice that they have flat bottoms at the end. I love a trident hoe in a heavier clay soil. Because these 3 blades are fairly close together, you actually can pick into the soil and move large amounts of soil, but it gives a little bit, allows things to slide through. So if there's a little bit of stoniness, or if it's just heavy clay, it allows a little bit of release of tension. If you ever go into a heavy wet clay and you have a broad hoe like this size of hoe, but there's no gaps between, it's just solid metal, you bring that in, you know, you're gonna get this like popping sound in the moisture, and it's hard work. So this really works really well in clay soils where there's higher clay content, and even a little bit of stoniness might be useful because they can slide through. But as soon as I get to a situation where there's a lot more stones, then I go to a clevis hoe where it's just these 2 blades coming off either end. There's a lot of room between to allow stones to slide through. And also notice that in replacing the trident hoe's flat blades, these actually have more like picks. So this style is actually a pick clevis hoe, and that means that I can actually really pick into ground that's stony or even rocky, and really be able to break in and break up material, and also allow those stones to pass through without getting stuck and jammed. You know, obviously a big stone can get jammed in there, but a lot of gravel and stuff will pass right through. So that's just to say that there's a lot of different styles of blades for hoes that are utilized for earthworks, for primary earthworks, such as terracing in a woodland area where you're building new food forest beds, or building new garden beds from scratch, or turning over beds after they've been in cover crop for a period of time. When you need a hoe that's going to move soil, a really important consideration is the design of the hoe for different soil types. So if this sort of thing gets you going, then you can check out the Garden Tool Handbook. It has a huge feature about many more design variations of these types of earthworking hoes and how you can choose them for different soil types. And so that's quite interesting if you're looking at it from that perspective, is to really see the variations, how you can have flat or pointed for stones, how you can have broader or narrower, moving between these trident and clevis styles to more broad or narrow root styles, etc. Even dual hoes where you actually can have 2 blades on one. So really take that into account in choosing the right earthworking hoe, is looking at the soil you have and how you want to use it in that soil. So there's your food for thought on hoe design for earthworks, and I'll see you in the next one.